Aloha. Oh boy, so I have definitely some information for you today. On June 11th, 2013, the reason I'm making this video is because I have revealed this information to a few people and starting to realize that it's probably best if more people know and I don't have to tell each individual or small groups from time to time, just refer you to the video. And the reason I'm making it is because people need to know this. This is going to answer a lot of questions. So first of all, and most importantly, there's nothing to be concerned about regarding this. There's nothing to fear, and there is nothing to worry. This will take you through a few segues and dips and turns that seem a bit shocking and surprising, and it has, like, we'll say, a happy ending, so to speak. So stick with me on this. I'll start off by saying I have a very old, long-time friend, my best female friend of many, many years, has married a scientist who used to work at Area 51. If you don't know Area 51 or what it is, you can always Google it and you'll get probably hundreds of thousands of results. It's apparently a top secret government extraterrestrial technology testing area site in Nevada. So this friend of mine, he's now a friend of mine, and he had a few PhD or a couple PhDs in quantum physics, a master's in quantum particle acceleration or whatever. So these are the types of guys that they like to recruit to work out there. Now, he was, quite the quirky genius type, and his parents found him to be rather difficult type. And at the age of 6, sent him off to a Buddhist monastery to live with the Shaolin monks. And the reason I mention that is because that's probably where he developed his mind power, meditative powers, or abilities, and probably telepathic abilities as well, or just, that general field. So when he first started working out there, the first thing you have to do is consent to the microchip, the biochip in the hand, the tracking device, because if you know the information that's going on out there, they need to know where you're at every second of the day, especially if you quit or retire or get fired or what have you, which actually ended up being the case with him. This is late 80s through the mid-90s. After about 7 or 8 years of doing this, he was no longer there. Started holding his own workshops, revealing the projects he was working on and the information he was being subject to and the situations and circumstances. A few months into that, the men in black showed up, a couple guys in a black Lincoln and the black suits, and said, "Cease and desist your activity now, or you'll end up a dead man in the desert somewhere, like other good men." So he knew they weren't messing around, and so yeah, no more workshops, lectures, thank you very much, okay, we're cool. 2 biochip tracking devices in his hand, one that you can remove, the other one, if you decide to remove it, you will not be able to have any use of your hand anymore because it's attached to a nerve. So he left that one in, which he still has. So the second thing they do once you get out there is run you through a telepathy test, because apparently the ETs communicate telepathically. And since, for whatever reasons, probably because he had a lot of previous experience in this field as a young child until from the age of 6 to 16, is probably why he passed the telepathy test better than anyone else out there. And because he did, they gave him a job for 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours a day, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the afternoon, to go into a certain designated area, probably a few feet away, to an ET race called the Zeta Reticuli, communicate telepathically, and then go back to his superiors and convey the information that was relayed. So like I always say, that's the job I want. Oh goodness. So The Zeta Reticuli, this is not the only place that they communicate with the, secret government or what have you. They do this, they have their area in Russia, and the Germans have theirs, and the Asians, and so on and so forth. The United States, this is where it all goes down. The Zetas are there, not against their will, but rather because the reason they're there is because they're losing their race. This is just the basics. Probably won't go into too many of the reasons why, but the main reason why is they're losing their race. They wanted to, they lab, grow, and clone, and then download the spirit into the body. That method's not working anymore, so what they want to do is integrate the human method of reproduction into their race to help save their race. And because their race has no emotions, it's like just business, they wanted to integrate some of the human emotions into their race as well to help them kind of evolve and such. So this was going on with a lot of abductions now in the 40s and 50s, taking genetic samples to accomplish this mission of theirs. And it was getting a little out of hand. Apparently, tons and tons of abductions were going down, and it was just getting a little bit out of hand with the public, and that's when the government stepped in and said, okay, enough abductions, it's getting a little out of hand, can we work something out here? And basically, this is just the basics again. Basically, they cut a deal that said, okay, you can have as many genetic samples as you want. You don't even have to abduct anybody. We'll just give them to you in exchange for technology. And that's why we've seen the technology boom over the last 60 years, is because they don't give it straight flat out all at once. They incrementally dish it out over the years. Here's a little computer technology, here's a little laser, here's a little hologram, here's a little genetic technology, here's a little infrared and whatever. Yeah. So that's, part of what's going on with the whole world regarding Area 51 and what's going on with the secret government and so on and so forth on this planet. Now, I want to mention a friend of mine who I highly recommend you check out. Her name is Lisa Renee. Her website is called energeticsynthesis.com. energeticsynthesis.com. And the reason I mention her is because she was a friend of mine, still is a friend of mine, when I was living in the Santa Monica area. And she was just an ordinary person, so to speak. I am everyday people. She's just a tax accountant. And one day she kind of had an awakening, a Kundalini awakening. She started having a number of peculiar things happening to her, what seemed to be peculiar. She was getting highly activated, didn't know what was going on, obtaining like psychic abilities, and started communicating with an ET race called the Guardian Alliance, which is primarily a Syrian and Lyrian-based race. And was like, whoa, what's going on here? And the reason I mention her is because her story lines up exactly verbatim to my friend who had worked at Area 51's story. And they both say this, it both goes like this. Our DNA was created on a planet called Lyra by an ET race called the Lyrians as a starseed project with about 20 to 30 other ET races. Now, it might not be the planet Lyra, it could have been Meldek, but I'm not exactly sure on these details. That stuff can probably be found on the internet because these two people, my friend from Area 51 and Lisa Renee, aren't the only two people on the planet that have figured this out or have been given this information. There's lots and lots of other people that know this. I do notice, however, that there's a lot of people that don't quite have it all correct. So you can always count on Lisa Renee thus far, from what I can tell from listening to many, many people on these various subjects, that Lisa is the most accurate and the most valuable information, as well as the most recent and updated information, which I think is a very important conglomeration of attributes and modalities to be hip to. So there you are with the starseed race that was being created by the Lyrian and Syrian as the primary host races, the root races. with the contribution of 20 to 30 other ET genetic contributions to this project. Basically, they wanted to create a race that was like a heart hub type of situation, like a, just a main genetic library of the universe, where you basically take one genetic sample from this universe, another one from that universe, take a genetic ET coding contribution from this galaxy, another one from that galaxy, put it all into one race to create this basically interdimensional, interfacing heart hub of the universe, kind of key code collective, so to speak. And so when the race, the human race, the project was completed, it had originally in its divine blueprint, it had 12 strands of DNA. It, things like reading a book, like you're scanning a barcode with your hand, total telepathy, miraculous healings, probably dematerializing and rematerializing somewhere else. All this type of stuff was totally normal for the original 12-stranded DNA, original divine blueprint. Now, so yeah, that's probably shocking enough for most people who have never been exposed to this type of information. I always like to kind of say it as we have our priorities, our understandings reversed when it comes to creation and potential. For example, we might think, oh, good Lord, an E.T. created me as a human, I'm much more, superior, this kind of stuff is impossible. But yet, on the other hand, you won't recognize, or people don't recognize, their absolute, full, unlimited potential of these attributes such as dematerializing and reappearing somewhere else. Oh, I can do that, or that's weird, or, miraculous instantaneous healings. Oh, a guy can't do that. No, you can do that. That's in your natural, blueprint, and yes, it's normal. And no, you're not like some superior, ignorant race that couldn't fathom being created by, another race. So, I was created by God. Well, there's different levels of creator gods. There's creator gods that will create species. There's creator gods above them, or, within them, within the whole scheme, that creates galaxies. And then there's creator gods above them or within the whole picture that create universes. And so there's a lot of levels of creator gods. When we genetically modify seeds like Monsanto does and have a new creation, is that God that created that? Or was that just somebody tampering with genetics that created that? Well, same with the human race. Yes, it was other beings that were, that are very, very highly advanced in their technology and with their, their DNA and their connection to source. And yes, they did create the race. So, now, let's go into what in the world happened to that 12-stranded DNA race. Well, up rolls a couple of negative ET races. We call them damaged souls or low vibration. You want to call it evil or demonic or what have you. And they show up and kind of see us as sitting ducks. Nobody's looking, so to speak. Hijack the planet, hijack the race, crossbreed their genetics into the race. For one reason, to get gold back to their planet, it's creating a slave race. Number two, to use as a battery source, where these negative ET races cannot create and source living light organic codes on their own because they're basically in dead dark energy light. They have to source it from somewhere else. And that's where the humans have been played on for many thousands of years now and have no idea what has happened. Another reason this is hard for a lot of people to understand is because the level of technology and physics and math that these other races, these ET races, use are so far beyond what we can even comprehend that it's like, huh, what? Holographic templates and, reverse mutating and what? So, yes, what they basically did is put a phase lock loop and energetic net webbing over the planet to where it's considered as like the die is cast, where you have a resin, you add the hardener, once it starts to harden, there's just no going back and fixing it. There's nothing you can do. This energetic webbing that's been put up over the planet, no ETs can even get in to save the day. It's kind of like even cloaking at some point, where some ETs that couldn't even really see what was going on there. As well as making it difficult for light beings, angels, and stuff to get in. Now, that's not to say that none has get in and had got in and could get in, just not so easy. So here you go. You have this planet that's basically been enslaved with this race that's been, dumbed down from 12 strands to 2 strands of DNA, now with this negative ET hybridization in it that's totally, not totally, but for the most part, disconnected from source and doesn't know who they are, what they are, where they've come from, or where they're going. And basically it's kind of like dragging a file into a software program where that's just the way you think it is. You're born into this life from cradle to grave, and that's just the way the world is. No, it's not. You've been played for a very, very long time. And it is time to wake up to what is happening, not like in a negative sense or in a condescending sense, but the time not only is to wake up because, well, let me go into that in just a moment, but let me finish up on giving the generality of how the negative ETs have pulled this off and how they operate the system. It's kind of like they run a software program on the planet, and holographic templates on the planet, if you can think of things in holographic template form, and software programs. Basically, there's a software program that when they hijacked the planet, they reinstalled their own operating system and their own software to serve their needs. And when you are born in this planet, you are in that whole field now, to where you exist within that whole system and that whole belief. So they kind of gave us their mind, the reptilian brain, so that is going to interface with all their belief systems. Basically, they've imposed and they've implanted and they've installed their belief systems into us. So you have all these different software and mind control programs that are on you, or on most people, that interface with the main software program that's on the planet. And of course, this is just the basics. It goes a lot deeper into the details. And so what they're doing to play this agenda out is they hybrid more of their genetics into the royalty and the elite. You've heard, oh, there's a few families that run the planet. Yes, it's true. And the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, mostly, so to speak. And when they work with these families, they remove empathy and compassion from their DNA, so they can have a $600 trillion wealth, but not give a shit about anybody else on the planet other than themselves, because they're just playing out their master's agenda. And then you see it trickling down into the governments, who a lot of them are possessed with negative entities and or have been hybrided into a more damaged place. You see it, the same families that bring you your oils, your gas stations, and your news stations are the same families that bring you your corporations, your banks, your pharmaceutical cartel, your religions, your school systems. The whole educational thing everything has just been set up like this, and has been continued to be refined over the past 6,000 years. Well, my. Yes, you happen to be born on a planet that's in the middle of negative alien agenda. But right now, because it's 2013, the good news is you're also on an ascending planet. So, what does that mean? What does all this mean? The goody-goody news, so to speak, is that ever since December 21st, 2012, which you've probably heard of, the Mayan calendar, the end of this and the blah, 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 that was basically the beginning of the return of the crystal star energy and the beginning of portholes and stargates opening, which is allowing good ETs, good beings, good light beings, good angels, good energy, so to speak, to return that back to the planet, so they can now get in. That energetic webbing is being dismantled right now. And it's being dismantled from the Christ, or the crystal star energy, which is returning. You've heard of the Christ, the return of the Christ. And when I say that, you probably think of Jesus or Christianity, which has absolutely nothing to do with that. That's been hijacked in its own sense, which is a whole other story as well. But what it is basically things come in cycles. You have like a one-day cycle, a one-year cycle, at least, 100,000-year cycles, millions of year cycles. This is a cycle, and it's the returning of an energy. These whole things go in patterns and in waves and in turns. So right now it's its turn, as it just kind of maybe partly haphazardly just floats through the universe, just as coming and hitting our planet right now. The return of the crystal star energy, the Christ energy, is actually, you could think of it even as a mathematical coding or a liquid light plasma pulsar energy that eternally and perpetually exchanges into the heart of God. And thank goodness it's coming back, because as it does, it's basically decimating all of this negative alien architecture programs and holographic, madness that's been enslaving the planet for 5,000 or 6,000 years now. So that's not the only thing it's doing. It's waking people up. It's restoring DNA. There's new babies being born with 3 strands of DNA these days. The energy right now to tap into just that beautiful God source energy, that just clean, crystal star energy, the magnificence, the glory, the clarity to tap into is so available right now. Yes, there's a lot of shenanigans going on the planet being played out because they know they're losing their grip, so you might see all this, crazy stuff with the chemtrails and the Monsanto agenda and, stuff that you probably wouldn't even understand if I started, going into it. All that makes it more difficult to tap into the energies and puts you more asleep and distracts you and does all these things. However, if you take the time here and there, just, even if it's just a couple minutes, 5 or 6 times a day to just do some work and do this play and really tap in, it's going to help to get you back online with your pineal gland, get your DNA plugged back in, get you back, into an awakened state. And, so that's basically what's going on as this crystal star energy is being returned. It's annihilating the, just the goofy garbage that's been, putting us in this prison here. So tap into it and, get yourself awakened. You're going to see some amazing, amazing things happening on the planet. Things you never even thought could be possible. Getting this ship turned back around, people awakening to who we are, taking down the whole system, restoring it into a system that can thrive, where people can feel connected. They can feel, their connection to God, to one another, to, your true spirit, to your true creativity. Start forming all the systems that need to be functioning in accordance with the natural laws of unity and oneness. The banking systems, the education, the food, everything. It's all going to start returning right back into our hearts, into our planet. And it's going to be the absolutely most beautiful times. And there's nothing to fear. Just, get a little connected. Go check out Lisa Renee's information, energeticsynthesis.com. And, rejoice, because it's a magical time to be alive on planet. So bless this, bless yourself. I love you, and thank you so much for taking the time.